Imagine DEKU as a waiter by day, and a model by night. Let's dive into this unique fanfic. Our story begins in Quig, China, with the birth of a bright baby. No one knew why or how it happened, but people started to have unique abilities now known as quirks. At first, these people were a small part of the population, but over time, it became normal for abilities to develop after turning 4 years old, leading to 80% of the population now possessing quirks. This gave rise to a new profession, the highly acclaimed hero, to counter criminals. Midoriya Izuku is a kind, observant boy with a good heart. Since he was little, he has wanted to be a hero to help people with a smile, just like his hero, known as the #1 hero and symbol of peace, All Might, along with his friend Katsuki Bakugo, whom he calls Kachan, as they were inseparable since they met. Over time, his friend awakened his quirk known as Explosion, which earned him praise, but Izuku didn't develop any quirks, causing a rift between them. Park. We see a green-eyed, green-haired boy walking in the park, happy because he'll finally find out what his quirk is as his mother is taking him to the doctor for some tests. Suddenly, he comes across a scene that upsets him deeply, where his friend and his friends are bothering an injured animal. Izuku, stop hurting the poor cat. Can't you see they're mistreating it? He shouts as he rushes to push the group away and stand in front. Kachan, don't bother, useless. Can't you see this animal stole a fish? We're catching a criminal. He says, smiling and about to unleash another explosion. Izuku, it may be true, but that's enough. It can barely stand. He says, stepping between the cat and his friend, starting to get scared because he knows his friend will get angry. Kachan, looks like you want to play hero, but you're helping a criminal, which makes you a criminal. He says, approaching Izuku slowly, putting his hands on his shoulder, creating small explosions. Izuku, stop it, Kachan. That's not what heroes do. He says, tears welling up in his eyes. Kachan, but look who's talking. We're 5 years old and you still don't know your quirk. He starts laughing with his other friends. Izuku, I know, but today my mom is taking me to see the doctor. He starts feeling down because of what his friend said. Kachan, but it won't do you any good. You can't compare to me. He starts hitting him with his friends. Izuku gets up after being hit. When he looks back, he sees that the cat is already gone. He smiles because he knows he helped the poor animal, so he brushes off the dust and goes home since it's almost time to see the doctor. Too bad he won't hear what he wanted to hear. He enters his house and finds his mother, who is about to cook, but she's interrupted by her son's greeting. Izuku, I'm home, Mom. He says, looking at his mother. Inko, welcome home, dear. I was about to cook before going to the doctor. She says, happy to see her son come home. Izuku, but Mom, wasn't the doctor's appointment at 1 o'clock? Inko, oh, right. It's late already. I'll have to cook when we get back. She exclaims, almost forgetting the appointment time and starts getting ready to leave. Hospital. We find ourselves in a waiting room where a green-haired woman and her son are waiting for the test to know the diagnosis of his quirk. The boy is happy because he'll finally know and can fulfill his dream of becoming a hero. Suddenly, they are called into the doctor's office, so the boy pulls his mother to hurry. Izuku, Mom, hurry, hurry. I can finally be a hero. He talks to his mother while pulling her. Inko, calm down, calm down. Doctor, how were the tests? She says, trying to calm her son down as she sits on some chairs. Doctor, well, ma'am, I have some bad news. The tests show that your son doesn't have any quirks. He says, checking some papers. Inko, how can that be? His father and I have quirks. She starts raising her voice, showing her concern. Doctor, well, you see, since quirks appeared, tests have shown that quirks manifest in people who have a joint in their foot, and as you can see in the x-rays, your son doesn't have that joint in his foot. He starts explaining while showing 2 x-rays. Izuku, Mom. He says, his eyes starting to glisten because he's about to cry. Doctor, I'm sorry, kid, but it's the truth, so I have to tell you that you won't be able to fulfill your dream of being a hero. He looks at him intently, delivering the final blow to the boy. Inko, thank you, doctor. We'll leave now. She says goodbye to the doctor while hugging her son and leaving the office. The 2 green-haired individuals leave the hospital. Seeing her son so depressed, Inko decides to cheer him up with his favorite food, so she starts looking for a place but can't find one. Suddenly, she finds a new one where she's never been before, so she decides to enter and try the food. Inko, Izu-kun, look, it's a new place. We can order your favorite dish. she says, smiling, trying to cheer up her son. Izuku, Mom, can I be a hero without having a quirk? He asks, trying not to cry. Inko, son. She couldn't finish as the owner of the place arrived. Waiter, sorry for overhearing your conversation, but. He stops when he sees the boy's face. Inko, don't worry. She says, indicating he can continue, and there's a silence. Waiter, kid, why do you want to be a hero? He starts approaching Izuku. Izuku, I want to help people with a smile. He says, hoping to hear what he desires most in the world. Waiter, if that's your dream, fight hard to make it come true. He gives him a smile and pats Izuku's head. After the words of the waiter, we could see a determined look in little Izuku's eyes, which was noticed by both the waiter and his mother. The latter smiled at seeing her little one, thinking she should support him in whatever he decides. Waiter, but you should know it won't be an easy road, so you must give it your all. He said while holding his notepad to take their order. After those words, the waiter began taking the orders of the two green-haired individuals, which were Katsudon and Okonomiyaki, prompting their departure. Inko, feeling better now, Izuku? Izuku, yes, Mom, I'm feeling better, but. He stopped speaking as several questions passed through his mind. Inko, what's wrong? Seeing Izuku not continuing, she asked Izuku, it's just that I wonder what it takes to be a hero. With a concerned and sad look as he knew he had to start training. Seeing her son with that look, Inko began to think, but nothing came to mind, starting to worry because she knew she might see Izuku depressed again. However, those thoughts were interrupted by the waiter who brought their dishes. Waiter, here's your order, ma'am. Inko, thank you. She receives the dishes and then thanks the waiter. Izuku, excuse me. Getting the waiter's attention and then continuing, what should I do to become a hero? Waiter, let me think. Putting his hand on his chin, well, in my opinion, I think you should train in a martial art that allows you to defend yourself and others. He said while taking out a cigarette and starting to smoke it. Seeing the waiter's action, Inko was annoyed by his rudeness as they were about to eat, but she was surprised to find that the smoke didn't harm the environment, so she allowed it due to his behavior with her son. The waiter noticed the woman's gaze but only smiled and said to them. Waiter, don't worry about my cigarette. I'll tell you a secret, my quirk allows me to control smoke, so I make sure not to disturb my customers, and it doesn't affect my health since I can expel all the smoke from my lungs. Inko was surprised by what he said, but then she realized what the waiter had said about his customers, as she thought he was just an ordinary waiter. Inko, sorry, from your words, I might think you're the owner of the place. She asked with a tone of doubt. Waiter, that's correct. Since we're just starting to open, it gives me a lot of free time, so I like to get involved in what I love doing, which is cooking and serving my customers. While giving a smile. Izuku, while thinking about which martial art would suit him best, didn't pay attention to the adult's conversation, but the more he thought, and nothing came to mind, he thought to ask the man who was helping him. Izuku, sorry, but I don't know which martial art could help me. Would you know which one I could practice to achieve my dream? Waiter, there are several martial arts that could help, like Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, Taekwondo, there are countless arts, but you must search for them yourself. Izuku, seeing that, started to feel sad because he thought the smartest person couldn't help him, so he lowered his head to not show his sadness. But he didn't realize that the waiter did see it and said. Waiter, well, there are also hidden martial arts, like the one in my family. Said hesitantly, seeing a woman with amazement and a child with stars in his eyes, which made him smile. Izuku, really? Do those martial arts exist? Could you teach me? He said while pleading for him to teach him. The waiter was startled by the boy's reaction as he didn't think he would ask in that way, but at the same time, he was pleased. After thinking it over carefully, he said. Waiter, well, young man, I'm not sure if my martial art suits you because in my family, there's an ideal that hands are only used for cooking or to help a woman, so my martial art only allows the use of legs. The two green-haired individuals were amazed to hear such words as it was a very elegant and chivalrous belief, which pleased Inko more as she thought her son would grow up to be a good man and hero, but she knew it wasn't her decision but her son's, as this would define his life. Izuku, yes, I ask you again. Let me be your apprentice. He said decisively, causing a smile in both adults. Waiter, all right, as I see your mother also doesn't oppose your decision, starting this weekend, I'll start training you. But before that, let me introduce myself. I'm Sanji Vinsmoke III. Inko, seeing the man's actions, could only nod and be surprised by his name as it was evident he was a foreigner with lineage, but then she reacted to properly introduce herself. Inko, nice to meet you, Mr. Vinsmoke. My name is Inko Midoriya, and my son's name is Izuku. Izuku, noticing his mother's actions, bowed his head in greeting. Sanji, the pleasure is mine, Mrs. Midoriya. You can just call me Sanji, there's no need to be so formal. Looking away to see Izuku. Izuku, thank you, sensei. I'll be under your care from now on. Sanji, don't worry, Izuku-kun, but you must prepare yourself for the training as it won't be easy. He said with a look that gave Izuku shivers. Izuku, hi, he didn't know why he shouted, but he guessed it was instinctual upon seeing the gaze of his now sensei. Seeing that, Sanji smiled as Izuku would be his first student, and to not disappoint him, he would train him hard so he could achieve his dream. Sanji, well, I'll leave now so you can continue with your meal, and Izuku-kun, I'll see you on Saturday at 9 behind the restaurant, that's where my house is. Leaving with a smile. Izuku, hi, sensei, he said very excitedly. After their conversation, they prepared to eat, but what surprised them the most was that the food hadn't cooled down, and its exquisite taste seemed like high-class food, which caused the green-haired individuals to look at each other and smile, continuing with their meal. At the end of their meal, they said goodbye and paid their bill, causing surprise to Inko as she thought the costs would be very high due to the high-quality cuisine, but to her surprise, they were neither too expensive nor too cheap, so she knew the business would do well, very well. Time passed, and Friday arrived. Our green-haired boy was excited about what would happen the next day because he couldn't wait any longer. But suddenly, an idea came to his mind, which was to go to the park to see his friend Kachan. He left his house and reached the park near his home. Suddenly, he found his friend playing with some other kids. Izuku, Kachan, what are you guys doing? He asked as he approached his friend. Kachan, you're just in time, Izuku. We were going to play heroes and villains, and of course, I'll be the hero. He said with a confidence that no one would deny. Izuku, and why can't I be the hero? Kachan, Izuku, you don't even have quirks. I remember you were supposed to find out what it was the other day, but I guess it's nothing like mine. Ha ha ha. Izuku, they told me I don't have a quirk. He said a bit sad remembering what the doctor said. Kachan, so, you're quirkless, ha ha ha, and you want to be a hero? You're just a useless quirkless. From now on, I'll call you DEKU. He started to walk away from Izuku while they began to laugh. Izuku started to feel like crying because of his so-called friend's words, but suddenly, a lady with some groceries put her hand on his head to find out what was wrong. With a very sweet voice, the lady asked him. Lady, what's wrong, little one? Izuku, it's just that my friend called me useless and gave me a nickname. Izuku looked down, holding back the urge to cry. Lady, sweetie, if what you say is true, I don't think he's your friend because if he were, he would treat you with more respect and consideration. How about I give you this pastry to cheer you up? Suddenly she took out a pastry from her groceries. Izuku, thank you. He started to thank the lady for being so kind to him, but then he noticed that the lady had a lot of groceries, so he offered to help her, which the lady accepted. Izuku started to carry some groceries, of course, the lighter ones, as the lady didn't want him to strain himself too much. The two began to walk towards the lady's house, but as Izuku advanced, the area where he was became more familiar until suddenly, they found a large house with a big yard. But suddenly, a voice that was somewhat familiar to him was heard. To his surprise, it was his sensei Sanji, who was starting to enter through a door at the back of the house. Sanji, Pudding, you're back. Aren't you tired? You know you shouldn't overexert yourself. He started to get worried. Pudding, don't worry, it's not that bad. I just did a little exercise while shopping. She sat on a piece of furniture in the house. Sanji, all right, but next time, let me know. You had me really worried. He said as he handed Pudding a cup of tea. Pudding, you're exaggerating, but you know I have to keep going because of the cake I was asked to bake. She started to smile, knowing her husband cared about her, but suddenly she remembered the little boy who had helped her. Pudding, by the way, I didn't do it alone. This little boy helped me. She glanced at the boy who had started to put things away. Sanji, Izuku-kun, what are you doing here? Our training is tomorrow. He was startled because he knew Izuku was at home. Pudding, you know him? She was surprised because her husband just nodded his head. Izuku, good afternoon, sensei. I just came to help the lady. He said as he finished putting things away. Pudding, dear, the boy helped me carry the things. Confirming Izuku's words. Sanji, thanks, Izuku-kun, for helping my wife. He gave a smile as he hugged his wife. Izuku, you're welcome. I did it because a hero should help everyone he can. Giving them a big smile. Sanji, Pudding, remember I told you about a boy I was going to train starting tomorrow? He's the one, his name is Izuku Midoriya. As he helped Pudding put on her chef's apron. Pudding, nice to meet you, Izuku-kun. My name is Pudding Vinsmoke, pleased to meet you. Giving him a smile and standing next to Sanji. Izuku, the pleasure is mine, Pudding-san. You two seem like an ideal couple. He said. As he watched them together. Pudding, see, dear? Even Izuku-kun thinks we're a perfect couple. Sanji, I know, Pudding, but Izuku-kun, it's very late now, you should go home. Your mom must be worried about you. And don't forget, I'll see you here tomorrow at 9. He said as he watched Izuku run home. Pudding, he's a good boy. She said to her husband as she watched Izuku run. Sanji, I know, that's why I decided to train him. Now, Pudding, we have to get back to work. Giving her a sweet kiss to start cooking, Izuku entered his house, greeted his mom, and to his surprise, saw his dad sitting in the living room, so he ran to hug his father because he couldn't see him very often due to his work. Izuku, Otosan, I'm glad to see you. He said as he jumped into his father's arms. Hisashi, Izu-kun, your mother already told me what happened, but you shouldn't be disappointed. Things can always look bad, but you must fight for what you want. So, work hard. He gave him a strong hug. Izuku, don't worry, Otosan. I know it can be very tiring, but I have to work hard to achieve my dream of becoming a hero. Izuku broke free from his father's embrace to tell him in a determined way that he would never give up without trying first. The rest of the night started normally, during which Izuku told them that he had met Pudding, his sensei's wife, and that she also cooked. The next day, we can see a determined green-haired boy in his sensei's garden, who told him to wait and start warming up by doing small jumps and running around the garden. Izuku, upon hearing that, thought that training would be fun and easy since he always used his legs. It's a pity he was so naive because he was in for unbearable pain. 10 years have passed since Sanji accepted Izuku as his disciple. He has undergone a significant transformation. He's no longer the shy boy he used to be, but rather a very elegant, courteous, kind, confident young man who exudes trust. He also started working at Sanji's restaurant and Pudding's pastry shop, taking on roles as both a waiter and a chef, as Sanji and Pudding began treating him as their own son. Misaki, Sanji and Pudding's daughter, was born. She saw Izuku as her brother, always addressing him as Oni-san, creating a close bond between them. Izuku treated her like a sister, always caring for her and indulging her every whim. As for his parents, Inko and Hisashi, they went abroad for Hisashi's work, but at Izuku's request, he stayed behind. They decided to buy an apartment near Sanji's house, but Izuku insisted he could live with them as they treated him like their own son. However, he was determined to be independent and chose to live alone. Izuku began living independently, receiving monthly support from his parents and earning money from his work with Sanji and Pudding. There were also times when he stayed with the Vinsmoke family at his sister's request. He decided to change schools when Misaki started studying. Now, we find Izuku training in the Vinsmoke fighting style, which primarily involves kicks. He started his daily routine, which consisted of 500 squats, 300 push-ups, 300 sit-ups, 600 jumps, 300 leg raises, 300 lateral jumps, and 500 lunges. After his routine, he practiced kicks and some acrobatics. Suddenly, Izuku's expression turned serious as he began stepping through the air, saying sky walks, increasing his speed with each passing moment. Suddenly, he found himself airborne, rotating and creating a green fire on his leg. Finishing his routine, he prepared to go to work with Sanji since he had no classes. He changed into his waiter uniform, which made him look very elegant, a gray shirt with a black vest and pants, a red tie, and black gloves to distinguish himself as the head waiter among the others. He glanced in the mirror, adjusting his hair until satisfied, then left. Izuku glanced in the mirror and began fixing his hair, then saw that everything was ready and left. Izuku, good morning, everyone. I hope you all have an excellent day. He said while adjusting his gloves a bit. Everyone, good morning, Izuku-san. Sanji, good morning, Izuku-kun. I still don't understand why you change your appearance for work. You know we have no problem with how you look. He said with a smile, knowing the reason behind it. Izuku, don't give me that, sensei. You know better than anyone why I do it, as you caused the problem that I haven't completely solved yet. He gave Sanji a serious look. Sanji, ha ha ha, you can't blame me for teasing you. Seriously, I still can't believe how that happened. He started laughing, recalling the moment of that confusion. Flashback. We see our green-haired protagonist leaving school since he didn't have to wait for his little sister, as he called her. He had informed her he would be hanging out with his friends, and before leaving, she had asked him for some money, which he handed over without any concern for a pleasant afternoon. After a while, he noticed a crowd gathered at the entrance, catching his attention. He approached and spotted a very elegant car that seemed somewhat familiar. "Izuku, does anyone know whose fancy car that is?" he asked a guy standing nearby. "Guy, I don't know, but I heard they're looking for someone." "Izuku, really? And who are they looking for?" He couldn't finish as he heard someone calling him. "Lady, Izuku, I've been looking for you to pay you for your service from last week. It was a splendid night," she said cheerfully, unaware of the implications of her words. "Izuku, Mrs. Grimori, what are you doing here?" he said nervously in response. "Mrs. Grimori, don't be like that. I'm a frequent customer, so you can treat me informally." "Izuku, that's true, but your words could cause confusion." He tried to calm his nerves. "Mrs. Grimori, I don't understand why, but here's your money for that night's services," she said, handing him a wad of cash from her belongings. Suddenly, murmurs started among Izuku's classmates, who misunderstood the situation and began spreading rumors about why Mrs. Grimori was giving him such a large sum of money since he wasn't old enough to work in anything significant. "Izuku, Mrs. Grimori could have given it to Mr. Vinsmoke so he could pay me." He tried to rectify the situation upon hearing what his classmates were saying. "Mrs. Grimori, I know, but it was such a splendid night you gave me, so I decided to do it personally to thank you." She bid farewell to Izuku, giving him a kiss on the cheek before leaving in her car. But Izuku stood frozen by Mrs. Grimori's actions. He began walking without paying attention to his surroundings, while all his classmates started leaving, talking about the situation and the lady's words, sparking a wave of rumors about Izuku and his nocturnal services. In the end, he had to do a cooking demonstration at school to prove he was a well-prepared chef, which led to an increase in customers at the Vinsmoke restaurant, but there were still a few people who didn't believe him. End of flashback. "Sanji, I can't help but laugh when you tell us what happened. We can't believe the way Mrs. Grimori expressed herself. She always chooses her words carefully." "Izuku, I'm not going to talk about it anymore," he said as he finished preparing the place to open. "Sanji, or maybe you did give Mrs. Grimori a special service?" he teased. "Izuku, don't push your luck, sensei. You know I can accuse you of what you did with pudding." He began to look threateningly at his sensei. Sanji froze at Izuku's actions, not knowing what to say, so he just remained silent and didn't bring up the topic again because he knew if Pudding found out, he'd be in trouble. Seeing his sensei's reaction, Izuku headed to the door to start opening up and serving the customers. Izuku began serving his customers excellently, as he had gotten used to the job, directing them to their seats and personally taking their orders, especially with the customers who were already familiar to him. It's a new day, and we see our green-haired protagonist finishing his training. He notices he's being watched, so he turns around and smiles because it's his little sister, Misaki Vinsmoke, who always brings a smile to his face. He's about to greet her when she suddenly tackles him. "Misaki, Oni-san, we haven't hung out in a while." Holding onto her brother so he won't leave her side. "Izuku, Misaki-chan, I'm all sweaty, I might dirty you." Worried about his sister. "Misaki, I won't let go until you agree." Holding onto him tighter. "Izuku, okay, but get up before you dirty your clothes." Pushing her off to stand up. "Misaki, hey. Pudding, Izuku-kun, you shouldn't spoil her too much, she might become dependent on you." Coming out to the patio. "Misaki, Okasan." Shouting to hide her embarrassment. "Izuku, she knows I love her like a little sister, Pudding-san. That's why I always indulge her whims." Finishing his sentence while patting Misaki's head and smiling. "Pudding, that's why you shouldn't spoil her too much, you might spoil her." Happy that her daughter has such a good and responsible brother. "Misaki, see, Okasan, he spoils me because he loves me." Hugging Izuku. "Pudding, but don't forget about today's event. We need your help, Izuku-kun, to welcome the Yaoyorozu family since they reserved the entire venue." "Izuku, don't worry, I'll be here with Misaki-chan before 4 to prepare everything. And Misaki-chan, wait for me at the entrance, I'll change." Walking to his apartment. When he returns, Misaki-chan is dressed in a dress with her unmistakable pigtails, looking adorable. But he didn't expect her reaction when she saw him. "Misaki, why are you dressed like that? We're going out as siblings, not to a business meeting." criticizing Izuku's attire as too old-fashioned for her taste. Izuku was impressed by his sister's comment since he was always praised for his style. He checked himself to see if he had failed in some way, but he was just wearing a white shirt, blue vest, and pants. Misaki, Oni-san, you should dress more your age. You have 10 minutes to change. Saying the last part in an authoritative tone, alarming Izuku because he knew what awaited him if he didn't comply. Time passed, and Izuku didn't show up until suddenly a guy approached her. She thought he was going to bother her, but she didn't realize it was her Oni-san wearing an outfit she had never seen before, a slightly loose shirt, revealing his muscles, greenish jeans, gloves of the same color, and a sports cap. Izuku, how do I look? Posing to mock how she had seen him. Misaki, Oni-san, what happened to you? You never dress like this. Responding in astonishment. Izuku, it's one thing to dress formally most of the time since my image is important for work, but I also have my pride as a man, so I have different types of clothes. Saying it proudly. Misaki, it's unfair, Oni-san, you've never dressed like this with me. Annoyed. Izuku, don't be angry, we can't spend all our time together. There are things you don't know about me, just like I don't know about you. Trying to calm her down. Misaki, no, it's a lie. You know everything about me. You've always taken care of me since I was born, you know me better than Okasan and Otosan. Getting teary-eyed. Izuku, okay, how about today we go buy clothes for both of us, and the other helps us choose. Nervous to see his sister about to cry. Misaki, yes. Hugging Izuku and walking straight to the mall entrance. Izuku, because I think she manipulated me to do what she wanted. The two siblings arrived at the mall and started walking aimlessly, visiting different stores. As promised, they went to a women's clothing store to buy a few items for Misaki. Shop assistant, good morning, may I help you? Asking while looking at Izuku. Izuku, we're here to buy clothes for my sister. Pointing to Misaki. Misaki, we're just checking out your merchandise. Looking at the girl, who felt her gaze and left. Izuku, don't do that, Misaki-chan, you'll get wrinkles, ha ha ha. Misaki, don't tease me, Oni-san. It's always the same when I'm out with you, a girl always tries to flirt with you. Crossing her arms and pouting. Izuku, don't let that ruin our day, let's stick to the plan. Taking her hand and leading her to the girls' section. The two siblings started browsing the clothes, picking a few for Misaki to try on. She went to the fitting rooms while Izuku waited. During his wait, Izuku noticed several girls choosing clothes, but the one who stood out had long blue hair, matching her eyes. Izuku walked toward her and overheard what she was saying. Girl, nothing fits me. Izuku, well, I think any clothes would make you look beautiful since you're very pretty. But in my opinion, this red dress would suit you because it complements your eyes and hair. Speaking without realizing the girl blushed at his compliments. Girl, thank you, you helped a lot. Thanking him while looking down to hide her blush. Izuku, don't worry. Couldn't finish because his sister interrupted. Misaki, don't worry, my brother likes to help. And regarding his taste, no one can deny he has exquisite taste. Saying while hugging Izuku. Izuku, but didn't you dislike how I dressed? Recovering from his sister's scare and glancing at her. Misaki, it wasn't that, it's just that you're always dressed formally, and I wanted you to dress less formally. Don't you see that you also look good that way and more relaxed? Girl, he looks very handsome like that, I wonder how he'd look in a shirt. Izuku, have you finished trying on all the clothes we picked? Letting out a long sigh. Misaki, not yet, I just couldn't find you when I came out, so I came to find you. Remembering what she was doing, she started pulling him back to the fitting rooms. Izuku, sorry, but we're leaving now, and sorry if we bothered you. Stopping to say goodbye to the girl. Girl, don't worry, I should thank you for helping me. Starting to speak with a slightly sad tone. Izuku, I loved helping you. Giving her a smile that caused several girls in the store to blush. Girl, excuse me, I'd like to know if I could join you to see if I find anything else. When Izuku heard the girl's request, he didn't know what to answer because he was with his sister, and accepting could upset her. So, he glanced at his sister, asking for a response. She just sighed and nodded, which brought a smile to Izuku's face. Izuku, it seems my sister doesn't mind, so it would be a pleasure to give you my humble opinion. He struck a very elegant pose and extended his hand gallantly before speaking. Misaki, Oni-san, you always do that, can't you see you're making the girl blush? Girl, no, it's not that, it just surprised me. There was a tone on her face that made her even more charming. Misaki, don't worry, it's my Oni-san's fault, he's always like this. Izuku, you should also behave like a lady, Misaki-chan. You know what your Otosan says. He said in a slightly annoyed tone as his sister criticized him all day. Misaki, yes, he says something about what a man does. Responding without much importance. Izuku, there, Misaki-chan, he says that manners make the man. And speaking of manners, where are mine? I never asked for your name, miss. Girl, sorry for not introducing myself earlier, my name is Neihire Hatu. Reacting a little late to the phrase she heard a moment ago. Izuku, nice to meet you, Miss Hatu, my name is Izuku Midoriya, and my sister's name is Misaki Vinsmoke. Kissing Neihire's hand. Neihire could only hear Izuku's name as she couldn't react after seeing his actions, as she had never been treated so chivalrously before. Izuku, Misaki-chan, what do you think if you go ahead to the fitting room so we can keep choosing while Miss Hatu and I look for clothes for her and for you? Misaki simply obeyed her brother and went ahead to the fitting rooms while the two young people began to browse the store again, looking for new clothes. What surprised Neihire was Izuku's taste, as it ranged from elegant to simple and casual clothes. Later, they went to the fitting rooms where everything was ready to continue trying on their clothes. Hours passed, and they ended up trying on everything they wanted. Of course, it wasn't as smooth as they would have liked because sometimes girls and even the saleswomen approached Izuku, which annoyed Misaki and Neihire. In the end, they decided to buy a few items. Neihire, well, I don't think I'll buy this, it's too expensive, and I won't be able to buy other things if I get it. She said in a soft tone so that she wouldn't be heard. But she didn't realize that Izuku heard her and began to take the clothes Neihire had left a moment before without her noticing and placed them with Misaki's things. After that, they went to the checkout to pay. Izuku took both girls' purchases as they left the store. Misaki, now it's your turn, Oni-san. Which store do you want to go to? Jumping to the front of the group to stop them. Izuku, let's leave that for another day, Misaki-chan. Miss Hatu must be tired by now for that. Neihire, what do you mean? Misaki, it's just that my brother has a lot of clothes that I've never seen before because he never wears them in front of me, like the ones he's wearing right now. He promised me that we were going to buy clothes for him too while I watch him try them on. She said in a tone between annoyed and sad. Izuku, I know, Misaki-chan, but Miss Hatu must be tired and probably doesn't want to continue. Neihire, Izuku-kun, I've already told you to stop calling me Miss Hatu. Just call me Neihire. And about the other thing, I wouldn't mind accompanying you, it doesn't bother me, I would actually like to do it. She said under her breath so she wouldn't be heard. Izuku, alright, but first let's grab something to eat, you both must be hungry after all that moving around. He said as he headed to a food stall, followed by the two girls, exchanging a knowing smile since both got what they wanted. After a while, they ate and went to a men's clothing store, which was familiar to Izuku as he visited it from time to time. Misaki, Oni-san, next time let's go to your place so you can cook. Neihire, Izuku-kun, do you know how to cook? She asked with a doubtful tone. Misaki, no, Neihire-san, my brother not only knows how to cook, he's a professional chef. Several restaurants ask him to work for them from time to time for gala nights. The last part left Neihire impressed as she didn't expect that hidden talent of Izuku. It only made her more curious about the boy, but what he said surprised her even more. Izuku, Misaki-chan, you know I'm not as good as your parents, I still have a long way to go to reach their level. He said as he browsed through the clothes in the store. Misaki, don't say that, Oni-san. You know that my Otosan and Okasan say you could go head to head with any professional chef or pastry chef and come out victorious. She spoke with great pride as if she were talking about herself. This amazed Neihire a lot because of the high regard they had for Izuku's cooking skills. She wanted to ask more, but she was interrupted by the store owner. Owner, Mr. Midoriya, I see you're accompanied by good company this afternoon. Is there anything specific you're looking for? Izuku, thank you for personally attending to me. I'd like to know what new clothing collections have arrived at the store. Owner, you're in luck, this year's summer collection has just arrived. Would you like us to take you to the fitting room? Izuku simply nodded, confirming what the owner said. Afterwards, the owner prepared everything for them to attend. Seeing that, Izuku headed to a private area, which surprised the two girls because of Izuku's attitude when dealing with the store owner. They were brought out of their thoughts by Izuku's words. Izuku, come on, girls, didn't you want to see me try on clothes for you? He said with a mocking tone. Misaki, big brother, why did they treat you like that outside and why did you act so normal? She runs after Izuku demanding an explanation. Izuku, I'll explain inside, privately. Izuku just kept walking to reach the fitting room he always used, surprising the girls because he knew the store perfectly and was well known by the employees who greeted him very politely. The girls were eyeing him up and the guys were dying of jealousy. After a while, the manager arrived with a collection of clothes which he left in a wardrobe. Then Izuku just started choosing his first outfit to wear, but he was stopped by his little sister. Nehire was just surprised by all of this, and Misaki was very annoyed because she didn't understand anything. Misaki, okay, big brother, I want you to explain what's going on here. She spoke while puffing her cheeks. Izuku, I guess I owe you an explanation. You remember Sameshiro Muzoshina? Misaki just nodded to let her brother continue without interruption. Izuku, well, turns out he's a well-known male fashion designer both inside and outside the country, but not many people know him by that name, they know him by his designer name, Ryan Lowe. When he came to eat at the restaurant, I personally attended to him. At the end of his meal, he made me a proposal. Flashback. We can see our green-haired boy wearing his waiter uniform while serving several people, including a very striking man who was watching the young man as he served the tables elegantly and respectfully. Suddenly, he takes out a notebook and starts sketching a suit, but he is interrupted by the same young man he was observing. Izuku, excuse me, here's your bill. He said before looking at the gentleman's sketch. Sameshiro, thank you, can you wait a moment? Izuku waited as requested. Izuku, excuse my intrusion, sir, but in my humble opinion, the vest should be crisscrossed with an English cut and 3 buttons. He said while asking for the notebook and pencil that the gentleman was holding. Then he modified the drawing but without damaging it, just to make his idea slightly visible. Sameshiro, excellent, kid, you have talent for this. Also, you have the qualities of a model. Would you like to help me with an exhibition I have in a couple of weeks? Izuku was surprised by the request but quickly composed himself to ask the gentleman's name, which he told him without hesitation, but the gentleman, without recognizing him, told him his designer name. After knowing who he was, Izuku accepted without hesitation. What Izuku didn't know was that the exhibition was abroad, but he later asked permission from Sanji and Pudding, explaining what was happening. They hesitated a bit upon hearing it, but then accepted since Izuku was an exemplary guy. End of flashback. Misaki, oh, so that's why you left for a week to Paris. Speaking in a tone that she understood but didn't realize Nehire's surprise. Izuku, actually, I was only supposed to leave for a few days, but after being there, I felt like sightseeing and stayed much longer than expected. Smiling. Misaki, that's unfair, big brother, I was very sad not to see you. Puffing her cheeks. Izuku, I'm sorry, but I brought you clothes and souvenirs from there. Misaki, yeah, but you should have taken me with you. Izuku, I was going to, but since it was after your exams and you got low grades, your parents wouldn't have let me. In his mind, he finally understood why she was upset. Nehire, Izuku-kun, you're really full of surprises. She said in a flirtatious tone. Izuku, a gentleman has the manners to treat a lady, respect a woman, and pamper a princess. He spoke while tucking a strand of Nehire's hair, causing her to blush. Izuku, well, girls, sit down, I'll model the clothes for you. After that statement, Izuku entered the fitting room and then came out wearing black pants, a white shirt, and a green sweater, showing off his toned body, leaving the girls in awe. Misaki was the first to speak. After that declaration, Izuku entered the fitting room and then emerged wearing black pants, a white shirt, and a green sweater, which accentuated his toned body, leaving the girls amazed at how well the outfit suited him. Misaki, wow, big brother, why don't you dress like that all the time? Any woman would fall for you, hee hee hee. Nehire, seriously, any woman would want you as a boyfriend. Even me. She whispered the last part. Izuku, that's quite an offer, Miss Nehire. He spoke in a teasing tone to gauge Nehire's reaction, but she just looked away to hide her blush. Not receiving a response, Izuku decided to continue his modeling, leaving the girls speechless with the variety of styles he tried on, from youthful to sophisticated, and from sporty to elegant. He ended with a suit at Nehire's request, but with the condition that he wore it a bit disheveled to tease her, though it didn't turn out as she intended. He wore it as usual, but as he walked out, he gradually disheveled himself, draping the jacket over his shoulders and loosening his tie, demonstrating that he had unbuttoned the top buttons of his shirt. Then he approached Nehire and said, Izuku, do you like it this way, Miss Nehire? He said in a seductive tone. Neihire could only nod with a blush, finding Izuku's playful demeanor very attractive, making her want to kiss him, but she restrained herself, though the idea lingered in her mind that she might have feelings for Izuku. After Izuku selected a few items to purchase, as he had only modeled for fun, he went to the cashier to buy them. Once done, he arranged for the clothes to be sent to his apartment as the store offered delivery service. Then he left the store with the girls' purchases, but before doing so, he wrote a note and placed it in one of the bags. "Izuku, girls, it's time to go," he said while checking his watch. Misaki/Neihire, "No, it's still early." Izuku, "Alright, but I have to leave because I have to work." His tone indicated that it wasn't up for discussion. After speaking, the girls agreed, and Izuku offered to accompany Neihire, who gladly accepted. Upon reaching her apartment, they realized that they lived not too far from each other. Izuku handed her the purchases and then went back home. "Neihire, it was a wonderful day," she murmured with a smile while placing the purchases on some furniture. Suddenly, Neihire noticed she had one more bag than she had bought, so she went to check, thinking it might be Misaki's. To her surprise, it was the clothes she decided not to buy, along with a note that made her smile and hug the bag tightly. The note contained just one phrase. We see our green-haired protagonist in his work uniform, arranging tables and chairs for the Yaoyorozu event, which would host renowned guests to celebrate the Yaoyorozu couple's anniversary. "Sanji, Izuku-kun, everything's ready to serve the guests." He approached our protagonist to inspect the venue. "Izuku, just finishing up, I was just arranging the flowers, checking the colors of all the decorations." He adjusted the flowers on the tables. "Sanji, yeah, no problem, the whole place is decorated, just a few dishes left, not counting your specialties, of course," he affirmed with a smile. Izuku, "Well, no problem with my dishes since they requested live cooking." "Sanji, it's a bit of an unusual request, but speaking of something else, you do want to show off by choosing those dishes to cook live." "Izuku, it's about giving the restaurant a good image and gaining more recognition." Determination gleamed in his eyes. "Sanji, I'm not so interested in that. I do it because I love cooking." "Izuku, I know, sensei, but you should also think about your employees." "Sanji, seems to me like you're doing this for a raise, ha ha ha," he said teasingly. "Izuku, I won't deny it, ha ha ha," he responded in the same tone. After that small chat, a couple of minutes passed before the guests started to arrive, including the Yaoyorozu family, consisting of Mr. and Mrs. Yaoyorozu with their daughter. To Izuku's surprise, their daughter was around his age, but he didn't show any recognition due to being busy with work. The night continued without any abnormalities until it was time for Izuku to prepare for the live cooking section. The guests were eagerly anticipating it, as they had heard wonders about the restaurant's chefs. Much to many people's surprise, Izuku was going to be the chef. "Izuku, ladies and gentlemen, tonight I'll be your chef. For my first dish, I'll prepare lobster thermidor," he said with elegance and seriousness, demonstrating his professionalism. Izuku began preparing the dishes set out for the party, which included French, Japanese, and Italian dishes, leaving most guests astonished by his knife skills and culinary prowess. As time passed, Izuku showcased the high cuisine of the restaurant before leaving the area to return to his regular attire. But while he was away, 5 individuals entered who appeared to be criminals. Everything was calm until they barged in, hitting one of the waitresses and firing shots into the air, grabbing everyone's attention. Criminal 1, everyone stay still and don't try anything. Criminal 2, looks like they're celebrating, maybe. He couldn't finish because he was interrupted by a voice approaching. Izuku, dear sirs, I kindly ask that you leave. This is a private event, he said calmly as he entered the restaurant, adjusting his tie. Criminal 1, you're a fool, kid, can't you see the situation you're in? Sanji, we're well aware of the situation, which is why we're asking you to leave now. He had a serious tone as he positioned himself to Izuku's left. Criminal 2, maybe it's better if we kill them quickly to show we mean business. Criminal 3, yeah, boss, we should do it fast before the heroes arrive. Izuku, Sakura-chan, are you okay? He offered his hand to help her up, receiving only a nod from the waitress. Sanji, you see, in my family, there's a saying. He paused, waiting for Izuku to get into position. Izuku/Sanji, manners make the man. Then they disappeared and reappeared in front of the criminals, kicking away their weapons. Criminal 1, kill them all. He shouted angrily, activating his quirk and those of his group. Izuku/Sanji, Diable Jambe. They ignited their legs and spun around Diable Jambe. They ignited their legs and spun around. Izuku/Sanji, venison shoot. They started landing many blows on the criminals before gathering them up and dragging them out of the restaurant. After that scene, Izuku turned to leave the premises through the same door the criminals were expelled from, but not before saying, "Izuku, ladies and gentlemen, please don't worry about this incident. I'll take care of the rest. Please continue with your evening, don't let it be ruined," he said with a smile. At that moment, he left the premises to tie up the criminals with a rope while calling the police to report the incident. However, he didn't realize he was being watched by the Yaoyorozu daughter, who couldn't take her eyes off him while reporting the criminal event on her phone. Later, the police arrived to make the arrest and take statements to verify the events. Izuku began recounting all the details of what had happened to the police and the heroes who were tracking the criminals, which surprised them by the actions of the owner and his waiter. But suddenly, a hero spoke up. "Hero, excuse me, but you need to come with us, along with your boss, as the use of quirks is not allowed, so you'll be arrested." Izuku, "Excuse me, but we never used our quirks, so we didn't break any rules, which means there's no reason to arrest us," he said, turning around, adjusting his clothes, and entering the restaurant, leaving everyone present uncertain. Izuku, "And if you don't believe me, you can check our quirk records." He stopped at the entrance to address them before continuing on his way. "Sanji, what happened, Izuku-kun?" he asked as soon as he saw him enter. "Izuku, don't worry, everything's sorted out." He spoke a bit louder than usual to inform everyone that they could relax and enjoy the night. With the matter resolved, everything returned to normal, allowing for a peaceful and comfortable evening for all the guests. Meanwhile, our green-haired protagonist continued with his work duties, albeit interrupted occasionally to receive a few congratulations, thanks, and compliments. We meet our favorite protagonist, who was with his little sister on their way to school as they were in the last period of classes for Izuku. In a few months, he could take the entrance exams for UA, the country's most prestigious hero school, to begin his journey of being a hero who saves people with a smile. But he's stopped by a voice calling him. "Boy, Izuku, you always manage to grab attention." He made this comment looking around. "Izuku, Yuto, stop that. You know I don't like attention," he responded in a neutral tone. "Misaki, good morning, Yuto-senpai," with a cheerful tone. "Yuto, good morning, Misaki-chan," with a mocking tone, "You always draw attention, Prince of Azaruma," laughing. "Izuku, stop saying that. I never asked to be called that." He sighed heavily. "Misaki, I think that name suits you, big brother." She smiled at the two boys. "Yuto, see, even your sister knows you've earned the title. But changing the subject, what happened at your job? It was on the news but they didn't give details." He caught up and walked alongside Izuku. "Izuku, it's just an arrest of criminals who broke into the restaurant," he said nonchalantly. "Misaki, Dad and Big Brother kicked them out when they tried to get into the restaurant. It was amazing, they were super synchronized. The criminals couldn't do anything when they started hitting them. The only downside is that it ended too quickly," she said with disappointment. "Izuku, how do you know that if you weren't there and you should have been asleep?" "Misaki, I was, but Sakura-san showed me the security footage because she was so happy you helped. He. Yuto, see, you totally deserve the name Prince, ha ha ha." "Izuku, stop teasing. I've had enough with the videos that were uploaded online." "Misaki, Big Brother, I don't see the problem. You look really cool." "Izuku, no, it's not the videos, it's the rumors that were created afterward." "Misaki, what rumors?" she said, putting her hand on her cheek. "Yuto, you don't know, Misaki-chan? That's why he earned the title Prince of Azaruma." "Izuku, Yuto, stop calling me that." Annoyed. Misaki just shook her head, signaling Yuto to give her a mischievous smile to start telling the rumors circulating. Among them were that Izuku defended a group of girls from delinquents from another school, that he punched a pedophile lurking around the school, that he saved a girl who fell from a building, that several girls confessed to him, both upperclassmen and teachers, that he's a prince from another country incognito, and many more that even he thinks were exaggerated. "Misaki, wow, I didn't think those rumors circulated in school." "Yuto, yeah, that's why they started calling him Prince of Azaruma. Many girls think that as long as Izuku is here, nothing bad will happen. He'll always come and rescue them, ha ha ha." "Misaki, well, although most of the rumors are true, how did they find out?" She looked at her brother. "Yuto, which ones, Misaki-chan?" He received a kick from Izuku. Izuku, I already told you to stop. I don't like talking like this. Yuto, Izuku, that's not how a prince behaves. Rubbing his stomach. Izuku didn't answer, he just continued on his way to school followed by his sister and best friend. Although he didn't mind the name Prince, he was bothered by the rumors circulating. After that conversation, Izuku arrived at school while being greeted by some girls. Girls, good morning, Prince. We hope you have a lovely day. The girls said it naturally, and after receiving his response and a smile, they happily ran off to their classes. Izuku then took Misaki near her classroom before leaving, but not before asking. Izuku, Misaki-chan, I'll wait for you after school. Misaki, no, big brother, today I'm going out with my friends. Izuku, well, take this to have fun. He took out his wallet and gave her some money. Misaki, thanks, big brother. She hugged him. Izuku, but don't do anything bad and come home early. He stroked her head and said goodbye. Then Izuku went to his classroom to continue his day as usual. Meanwhile, a group of hooded figures was gathered at the back of the school with some blueprints of the school. Suddenly, the apparent leader spoke. Leader, everyone understands the plan. You know All Might is after us for what we did last week. If we don't leave the country today, we're done for. Criminal 1, yes, boss. Everything is ready, we just need your order and we'll do it. Criminal 2, we'll only have an hour before the heroes react and start coming. Criminal 1, that's why the boss is here. But the problem is if All Might comes, since the boss's quirks don't work on him. Criminal 3, I heard there's a very strong student at this school. The boss can control him to fight with the heroes, ha ha ha. Criminal 1, but do you know who it is? Criminal 3, no, but I know they call him Prince of Azaruma and he always comes to the aid of girls. Leader, well, let's carry out the plan as planned, and after that, we'll contact this so-called prince through the megaphone, threatening all the girls. After the leader made his final statement, everyone nodded and started to take their positions to receive through communicators that the operation was starting. Then a group positioned themselves at the school entrances, another group roamed the school, and the last one with their leader headed to the principal's office. Leader, students of Azaruma School, this is a kidnapping. I hope nobody does anything stupid and obeys. My men are in every section of the school to watch over you until the heroes accept our demands. He said over the megaphone located in the principal's office. Izuku, I guess I should take a look to see if I can do something. Leader, and finally, we want the Prince of Azaruma to come to the principal's office, or else we'll kill a girl every 10 minutes. Creating a profound silence throughout the school. After hearing those words, the students started to get worried. Izuku began to think about what he should do, and the only thing that came to mind was to knock out or expel all the criminals in the building so the students could take refuge there and not be in danger. As he finished his thought, he started walking towards the door, being watched by his classmates. However, he was stopped by his best friend, who said, Yuto, you're not planning to surrender, right? You know you're the hope for all of us. Don't worry, Izuku replied seriously, I want you to help me with a few things, Yuto. Of course, you can count on me, Yuto assured him. I'm going to try to get all the criminals out to the schoolyard so everyone can take shelter in the building and then fight outside. But I'll also try to knock out as many as I can without focusing on them. So, Yuto, I want you to gather some guys to find the guy who can make tape to tie them up. But Izuku, if we use our quirks, we'll be in trouble, Yuto pointed out. Don't worry, I'll only use martial arts to fight. And as for the tape, we can say it's adhesive tape. If they don't believe us, the worst that can happen is a scolding, Izuku replied with a sincere smile. Alright, we support you. After all, you're the Prince of Azaruma, Yuto said, showing his confidence with a smile. Then first I'll assess the situation and come back, Izuku said, disappearing from the spot. Yuto then briefed everyone, who simply nodded in agreement. Izuku explored the entire school without being seen due to his great speed. He found that the school was surrounded by about 20 criminals, while inside the building there were around 15 criminals divided into groups of 3, with 5 in the principal's office, one of whom appeared to be the leader. Returning to his classmates, Izuku informed them and then said, Alright, guys, the first thing we need to do is find that guy. We only have 8 minutes until they attack someone. So, I'll go at full speed. I believe I can knock out the 15 inside, but the problem will be the 5 in the principal's office. They seem strong, so I'll throw them out the window. Don't worry, we'll do our part, the others nodded in agreement. One more thing, Izuku added, make sure everyone sees that they're safe and no one leaves, as I won't be able to handle everything. After saying all that, Izuku left with his friends to find a group of criminals. He then disappeared and reappeared in front of them, saying, "Collier." He kicked each criminal in the head, knocking them out and quickly leaving them incapacitated. "Now, guys, run to the guys' classroom. I'll take care of the rest," he said seriously, scanning for any approaching threats. Izuku repeated the same actions with all the other groups, with only 1 minute left before the 10 minutes they were given to present themselves in the principal's office. Meanwhile, in the principal's office. Criminal 1, "Boss, there are only 10 minutes left before the time's up." Criminal 2, "The kid must be scared to death, that's why he's not coming." Criminal 3, "He must be hiding somewhere." "Boss, it doesn't matter what happens to that brat. We just need to show that we're serious about killing them. This will also put pressure on the heroes." Criminal 2, "Leave it to me, boss. I'll go find a beauty for us to have fun with and then kill her," he said with a depraved smile. "Boss, alright, go find her, but bring her back before you do anything." Criminal 2, "Don't worry, boss, hee hee hee." The criminal left the room and couldn't find any of his accomplices. But he didn't care as he was only thinking about finding a pretty girl to have fun with. He started walking through the upper floors to see if he could find anyone. Along the way, he spotted a girl with a nice body and licked his lips, saying, "You, girl, you'll be the chosen one." The girl felt something bad was about to happen and ran, but she was caught within seconds. Just as the criminal was about to grab her, someone grabbed her waist and stood between her and the criminal. Then, with a swift kick, he said, "Izuku. Mutton shot." He delivered a flying kick, slamming the criminal into the wall and knocking him out. "Are you okay?" Izuku asked, concerned, still holding her by the waist. "Thank you, Prince," the girl said, snuggling into Izuku's chest and starting to cry, getting lost in his emerald eyes. "Don't cry, nothing bad will happen to you. I have the strength to protect you," Izuku reassured her, wiping her tears away. "It's better if you go. I'll take care of the situation," he said. The girl didn't want to let go of him, but she understood it wasn't the time for that. So she let go, but not before giving him a kiss. Then she left the place, receiving only a smile from Izuku. His smile suddenly disappeared, replaced by a serious expression, and he began to walk away. Once again, we find ourselves in the principal's office, where we see the boss of the criminals and 3 of his subordinates threatening the director to call the police to finalize their plan. But suddenly, they would be interrupted by the boss. "Boss, you're just prolonging the inevitable, director. Do yourself a favor and cooperate with us so no one gets hurt." "Director, I've done everything you wanted. Please don't hurt anyone," he said after a moment of communicating with the police and relaying the criminal's demands. Criminal 1, "Boss, we just need to check on all the members." He took out a radio and first checked on those outside, but his surprise came when he tried to communicate with those inside. Criminal 1, "Boss, the Sichu." He couldn't finish as he was hit and thrown out of the window. The other criminals couldn't react in time and were also thrown out of the window. Only the boss remained, but he noticed a boy standing in front of him. Suddenly, the boy said, "Izuku. Buktiere shoot." Izuku stood on his hands, delivering a kick with both legs that sent the boss out of the window. "Izuku, director, call the police and tell them only the criminals in the yard are left. The others have been neutralized. Also, check on the students." He then jumped out of the window. Izuku landed on the ground and began to walk with his hands in his pockets. He stopped in front of the criminals so all his actions could be seen by the students. They approached the windows, and the girls started to scream. "Girls, the prince is here. He always protects us." We see our main character facing all the criminals with a serious look, watching every move they make so they can't catch him off guard. Suddenly, a shout is heard. "Boss, kid, you're asking for trouble," he said as he stood up. "Izuku, I can't die yet, I have people waiting for me and a dream to fulfill." He started walking slowly with his hands in his pockets. Criminal 3, "You're playing with us. Someone grab him and bring him so the boss can torture and kill him." All the students were scared by the words. Suddenly, a group of 5 criminals separated and started running towards Izuku, but he didn't flinch, he just stood there waiting for them. When they were close, Izuku directed kicks at each of the criminals until he spoke. "Izuku, call your neck." He kicked the criminals in the head, leaving them on the ground. "Izuku, mutton shot lamb shot." He kicked the last standing criminal, sending him flying with the rest of the group. Everyone present was surprised by this display of strength, and what was even more surprising was that he didn't use any quirks to defeat 5 criminals in just seconds. The boss, upon seeing this, only smiled and spoke. Boss, everyone, take care of him, show this kid that he shouldn't mess with the most wanted criminals. He proclaimed proudly and disdainfully, then smiled broadly. The rest of the criminals, except those in the principal's office, mobilized and surrounded Izuku, then started throwing punches using their quirks, while Izuku dodged and blocked some blows before launching a counterattack with a kick, keeping them at bay. Izuku thought he might lose if things continued like this, so he stood on his hands on top of one of the criminals and said, "Izuku, party table kick course." He began spinning rapidly, kicking the heads or torsos of the criminals, quickly leaving them severely battered. Suddenly, he stopped, standing again in the middle of them all. Seeing he was about to be surrounded again, Izuku jumped, starting to ascend while saying "Skywalk," then stood in the air and started spinning above himself before only hearing, "Izuku, diable Jean Paul Frere Spectre." Suddenly, his legs were ablaze as Izuku began kicking the air, causing balls of fire to rain down like meteorites on the group of criminals. As a cloud of dust rose, after a few minutes, it could be seen that Izuku was the only one standing among the group of criminals. Some were knocked out, others burned, showing they couldn't fight anymore. Izuku looked at the criminal boss, then took gloves out of his pockets and put them on without averting his gaze from the criminals, astonishing everyone present. Then a voice was heard. "Boss, I guess you're the famous Prince of Azaruma." "Izuku, that's correct. I am he, in person." "Now that's settled, would you like to spare me the trouble and surrender, as you are the only ones left here, while the heroes won't take long to arrive?" Suddenly, a lot of noise was heard as people started to arrive outside the school, followed by the media, reporting what was happening. Then some heroes arrived and started saying that these were highly wanted criminals that only top heroes could arrest. "Boss, that's true, but you have a flaw in your assumptions." "Izuku, could you let me know what that flaw is?" "Boss, we just have to capture or kill you to set everything right again. Better yet, I have an offer for you, join us and you can be rich." "Izuku, I'm afraid I can't accept that proposal, as I have to protect my classmates." "Boss, it seems you're just a kid trying to be a hero. But you know, many kids and heroes act like you, yet they only meet a very painful death." He smiled, terrifying all the students. "Izuku, I don't mind dying trying to be a hero. I just know that's what I want, and that's all that matters." After making that statement, which surprised everyone, silence filled the area. In the distance, a blond man with a gaunt and thin appearance could be seen. He just stared at the young green-haired man, clenching his fists. But what truly surprised everyone were the following words he said. "Izuku, if I die here, it will be because I wasn't meant to go any further." After finishing the sentence, he took a fighting stance. "Boss, you're truly insane, kid, but I give you credit for your courage. So, you'll have a showdown with me alone," he said, taking off his jacket and preparing some knuckle dusters. "Criminal 1, are you sure, boss? If he gets distracted, a hero might intervene." "Boss, then what do I have you for? Anyone who steps inside the school must die," he said with a playful tone, showing he was enjoying the moment. The three criminals separated to try to cover the entire area so there was no way for Izuku to sneak in. Then they activated their quirks, creating a sort of wind wall around the school. One of the criminals spoke. "Criminal 3, boss, we won't be able to hold out long as we're missing a member." "Boss, don't worry, I'll just torture him a bit before killing him." Faced with this attitude, Izuku said nothing, just kept staring, then disappeared and appeared in front of the boss, launching a kick to his side, but it was blocked with a hand. Thus began a combat in which blows were exchanged, with Izuku having a slight advantage that wouldn't last long. "Boss, you're truly strong, but this is just the beginning. Don't get cocky." "Izuku, I never do." He smiled. "Boss, I would have liked to play with you, but as you'll understand, I don't have the time." Izuku just kept kicking him, but then he couldn't move and received a strong blow that sent him flying into the school, making everyone worry about him. Suddenly, the criminal boss spoke. "Boss, I suppose your quirk allows you to have speed or control fire. Sorry for not introducing myself earlier. I'm Karuo, and my quirk is silk. I'll help you and tell you what my quirk does. It allows me to create threads like those of a spider, being able to trap you and control you like a puppet. But before that, I'm going to torture you and cut off each of your limbs." Everyone was surprised by what Karuo said because he claimed to be unbeatable in hand-to-hand combat. Many of the kids started shouting to check if Izuku was okay, but they received no response until someone yelled. "Misaki, big brother, I know you can beat him." "Karuo, hey kid, don't tell me you're already dead from that." It was just a greeting, ha ha ha. Misaki, my big brother will never lose, he's very strong. Karuo, oh, it seems your little sister trusts you a lot. Maybe I should let my goons have some fun with her before killing her, all in front of you. Misaki, my big brother won't allow it. Karuo, ha ha ha, girl, there's no one who can stop me from doing what I want. Karuo smiled at the boy's words but was surprised when Izuku disappeared again and words were heard beneath him. Izuku, anti-manner kicks course. Izuku kicked with a 180-degree rotation. He supported his left foot on the ground and his right on Karuo's jaw, sending him flying high before disappearing and reappearing above him to begin spinning. Izuku, concassor. He descended, delivering a powerful kick to Karuo's head. With that tremendous blow, Karuo was forcefully thrown to the ground, creating a large crater upon impact. Another silence fell, interrupted only by a very unpleasant laugh. Karuo, ha ha ha, kid, you're really something. Not many can hit me without suffering serious consequences. Izuku, it seems you're going to be very hard to beat. He frowned. Karuo, there's a reason I'm one of Japan's most wanted criminals. Izuku, then why don't you just leave and keep being one of them? He said jokingly. Karuo, ha ha ha, you're truly the best. But this has to end, or I'll have a lot of problems and end up leaving a trail of blood. He smiled psychotically. After these words, Izuku could only give him a serious look before beginning to spin and noticing his leg was on fire, then plunging towards Karuo. Izuku, Diable Jambe Collier Strike. He directed his flaming leg towards Karuo's head. But suddenly, a silk wall appeared, blocking the blow and turning into spikes aimed at Izuku. He disappeared again, reappearing on Karuo's back to say. Izuku, Diable Jambe Premier Ash. His other leg ignited and he aimed it at Karuo's torso. He managed to hit Karuo, but it only made him stagger back a few steps. Izuku noticed that where he had kicked, Karuo's clothing was burned, revealing slightly burnt silk fabric underneath. He deduced that Karuo had created a silk armor, which Karuo confirmed. Karuo, it's incredible that you made me use my silk armor. It's stronger than iron, so you won't be able to hurt me. Izuku, I wouldn't say that. Check it out. He pointed to the burned spot. Karuo, that's nothing. He regenerated the damaged part. Seeing this, Izuku only grimaced but said nothing more, remaining in position and observing. Karuo then ran towards him, creating a spear out of silk threads. Karuo, this is another of my quirk's abilities. I can make threads take the form of anything I want. He began thrusting with the spear. Izuku dodged the attacks while sending a couple of kicks to Karuo's legs to make him fall and also aiming for his arms to block the attack. Suddenly, Izuku made a big jump to retreat and then said. Izuku, Diable Jambe Venus and shoot. He suddenly appeared above Karuo to deliver multiple kicks with Diable Jambe. Izuku's attack barely harmed Karuo, but it did manage to land a good blow to his head, making him spit blood. But suddenly, Karuo's gaze turned towards the school building as he spoke. Karuo, looks like I can't hit you, but what if I hit the students? He then created two giant hands aimed at the building. Izuku, Diable Jambe Fritta Sortie. He appeared in front of the building and kicked towards the hands to deflect the attack. But suddenly, he received a blow that sent him crashing to the ground and rolling for a few meters. All the students screamed at the turn of events. Some lamented, others clenched their fists, while the girls shouted Prince. Everyone looked to see Izuku's body as he got up, revealing that he was injured, with blood covering part of his face and his clothes torn. Karuo, see, kid, your weak point is the students. You'll always try to help them. Izuku, I won't allow you to hurt them. I'll finish this once and for all. He said while panting. Karuo, ha ha ha, I want to see that, kid. Suddenly, he was covered by a much larger armor and also wore a helmet. Izuku, Diable Jambe Flanche Strike. He started running, igniting his leg in flames and hitting Karuo to send him flying. Izuku, Sky Walk. He rose while stepping on the air. Izuku, Hell Memories. Suddenly, Izuku was engulfed in flames and kicked. Karuo, he's on fire. Was all he could say. Izuku kicked Karuo's chest, causing him to be surrounded by flames, which made his armor char and fall to the ground unconscious. All the students began to cheer and acclaim their hero, who stood in front of Karuo, looking up at the sky.